G'day poker people, I am on a mission to pay off my home mortgage debt in the next 3 years strictly from poker winnings. I play an insane session of poker where a Florida man comes to the table and starts blasting. There is so much action to get to, including an over $11,000 pot with my second favorite hand, Pocket Kings. Make sure you stick around to the end of the video to see how that hand winds up. For now though, let's get to gambling. Let's go! So we are straight in the 5-10 mix for 3,000 bangers where I put the straddle on for the first hand and then Kucherov makes it 80 in early position. When it folds around to my straddle, I peel pocket 10s and I actually think this is a pretty clear-cut call facing a 4x open from early position. Not an awful hand to 3-bet or anything, but I think calling's better. So that's what I do, and we heads up to a flop of Jack 9-6 with 2 spades. I check it over to the villain in flow, who goes ahead and c-bets for 125. And already alarm bells are going off. He chose a large c-bet size on a very wet board. I think he's going to have all of the overpairs in his range, as well as a bunch of strong Jack X hands. Having said that though, if my read's wrong, I'm folding out a lot of equity with what probably is the best hand. Like if he's just stabbing with ace king on this board anyway, I wouldn't be totally shocked. So I do throw in the call. I'm going to be proceeding with a lot of caution going forward. So the turn is the 2 of clubs, about the brickiest one in the deck. I check it over to the villain and he keeps betting, but this time only for 200. So a down bet relative to the size of the pot, which I don't know, man, looks pretty weak to me. Even if the villain does have an overpair or a jack, maybe he's not liking this run out and he wants to play a bit of pot control by down betting a bit. It's a bit of weakness I think we can pounce on. If we check raise here, we probably will get called by overpairs and strong jacks, but we do set it up with a nice SPR to go all in as a bluff on the river. So I decide to go for it, turning my 10s into a bluff. I check raise to 700. And then the villain does something I wasn't expecting at all. He goes ahead and 3-bets to 1,400. I think I made a bad read on the turn. Clearly the villain is not scared of putting more money in the pot at this point, and either he has an overpair, he's deciding to go with it, or he did have a set and he was actually down betting to trap. So pretty easy fold with 10s at this point. I think the takeaway here is that Kucherov can get a bit tricky with his bet sizes sometimes. Shortly afterwards, I decide to 3-bet ace-10 when I thought the villain was weak, but then he goes ahead and puts in the 5-bet for 550. Of course, I have to fold at this point, and the villain shows me ace-king. So maybe making some bad reads on how strong people are today. We are not giving up yet. I add on for another 1.5 thousand bangers. Let's get into the next one. Next hand up, everyone's favourite communist Karl Marx limps in early position. Then I'm in the low jack with ace-queen offsuit. I bang it up to 50, and then we only get called by the limper. So it heads up to a flop of king-queen-4 rainbow, and then Karl Marx just leads into us for 110. So almost a pot size bet as a lead, and I'm definitely not loving it with second pair here. He could have easily limp call with a king pre-flop, and maybe he's going to stab with leads sometimes as a bluff, but I think he might use a smaller size. I decide to throw in the call here. We do have some outs to improve on his king X combinations if that's what he has, but it's definitely pretty dicey. I think our range is probably behind what he's betting to this size. Whatever the case though, we are heads up to a turn, which is the 7 of diamonds completing the 4-card rainbow, and the villain does not slow down by any mean. He goes ahead and bets 300 bangers, and the action's on me, really hating at this point. Likely he does have a king, or maybe even stronger. Like if he flop 2 pair or a set, this line makes all the world of sense. Probably puts me on a lot of like ace-king combinations, having played the hand this way. So I just decide to fold my ace-queen here, making a bit of a disciplined laydown. And the villain was kind enough to show us he did have king-7 of clubs, so he actually turned 2 pair there, and at least we got away from it this time. Next hand up, an early position player makes it 30, and then it falls to my big blind with pocket kings, baby. What a premium to look down at. Of course, I'm going to 3-bet this hand, but being I'm the last to act, I want to use a really large size here. Going to be raising with my strongest hands here, and some of my really weak bullshit hands. Really need to use a large size to make more money when we have a strong one, or get more fold equity when we have a weak one. Explains why I flattered with the pocket 10s earlier, but I go ahead and make it 135 bangers, and then the Ohio boy throws in the call. So it heads up to a flop of 8-7-6 rainbow. Pretty bad flop for us. The villain's going to have all of the 2 pairs and sets on this board, probably straights as well. So I check it over to him and he goes ahead and bets 75. Now I am a bit relieved to see him use a small bet size here. Could definitely be going for thin value with a worse pair and probably get a bit more greedy if he did have 2 pair, a set or a straight. So feeling very confident about my hands. Do not want to check raise though. I think the villain probably will fold weaker hands to a check raise in this spot. Well, if we call here and then lead ourselves in the turn, I think we're just going to make more EV off of that type of range going forward. So I do throw in the call here, and then we are heads up to a turn, which is the queen of spades. spades. Now, we already decide that we're going to lead. It just becomes a sizing decision. Part of me wants to go really big in case the villain does have a hand that's like a 9x with a pair, because I don't think it's going to fold. Maybe that's a bit greedy though. If a villain does have like ace-8, he'll probably be able to fold for a massive bomb here. Let me know what you'll bet in the comments below. In game, I bet Mr. Worldwide 305 Dale, and the villain does fold, so probably on the weaker side of their range. Whatever the case though, we are dragging in this pot. Let's go. Next hand up, Paulie D's cousin makes it 40 under the gun. He gets one caller before the action's on my low jack with jack 10 of diamonds. And honestly, all three options are on the table here. In game, I decided to flat, really could do any three of the options though. And then the only other caller is the big blind. So a total of 4 ways to a flop of 3 queen 8 with 2 clubs. And then the action checks all the way to me. Very happy to see a free turn with my gut shot here. So I check it, and then the turns, the 9 of clubs. So we do hit our gut shot, but it does put it out 3 clubs. And then the action checks to Paulie D's cousin under the gun, who goes ahead and bets 50. When +1 folds and the action's on me, a little bit worried that he could have the nut flush having taken this line, checked it on the flop to try and see a free turn, but I think that's a little bit too worried about monsters under the bed. He could also have turned a set with pocket 9s, have something like queen 9 suited. If he has a hand like ace queen with the ace of clubs, he's probably going to finally bet it into so many people. So I think it's worthwhile raising here for a little bit of thin value. So I go ahead and make it Mr. Worldwide 305 Dale, and then I do only get called by the under the gun player. So we are heads up to a river, which is a 5 of diamonds. Very relieved to not see a 4th club. When the villain checks it over to me, honestly, it's a little bit tempting to check it back. The villain probably still has all of the nut flushes in their range. Those aren't the only hands in their range though. They can still have the sets, they can still have the 2 pairs, which I do not think are going to fold to a bet as long as I don't get too greedy with my sizing. So I decide to bet out for 225. Then the villain tanks for a little bit before check raising to just over 1300, and I absolutely hate it. I was so close to checking back on the river, but now that he's done this, I think it's extremely likely he does have the nut flush. The only possibility could be that he has like ace of clubs, queen X that is turning their hand into a bluff, but I just think with the way their range is distributed, a nut flush is a lot more likely. So I do decide to make the discipline laydown with my straight here and kind of kicking myself for the river thin value bet.
I think we need to choose a bigger size on this river. Your bet here doesn't get enough value, and it reopens us to a potential check raise bluff. Generally speaking, we don't reopen betting on the river for less than 50% a pot. Some exceptions are with the absolute nuts and complete trash, and this hand is neither of those.
And just to top it off, we end up losing a few hundred more in this pot limit Omaha double board bomb pot. But when we get out ace jack pre-flop, we do end up 3-betting it and taking down the pot to get a little bit of momentum back on our side, which we're going to ride into this next hand. Next hand up, we have the button straddle on, and it folds to my low jack with king queen of clubs. I buff it up to 80 bangers, and then I only get called by the Ohio boy on the button straddle. So it heads up to a flop of jack 9-6 with 2 diamonds, 1 club. Gonna start things off with my default strategy of checking it out of position in a heads up pot, seeing what the villain does, and they actually decide to check it back. So we do get a free turn, which is a 10 of diamonds. So again, we turn a gut shot straight, but there are 3 diamonds out there. I think we gotta go ahead and bet really big this time though. In a heads up dynamic, their range is going to be a lot wider, and if they turn a hand that's a 10 or any queen X, they're going to have some equity, and I think they are not going to fold to any bet size that's around 200 bangers, which is what I go for here. I go ahead and bet 200, and then the villain throws in the call. So it heads up to a river, which is 9 of spades, which does pair the board. So a little bit concerned about full houses now. Not totally impossible they slow play to flush either. We cannot get discouraged from thin value betting in this spot though. I know it backfired in the last one, but those ranges were a lot tighter in multi-way dynamic. In a heads up pop, the villain could have still slow played a jack on the flop. He could have actually river trips. He could have queen 10, for example. So I don't think we can still get value here. Just need to be a little bit cautious about our sizing, because it's not going to be a good run out if the villain has a jack. So I decide to size to 500, a little bit less than the size of the pot, and then the villain throws in that call. You love to see it. I show my hand, his goes in the mucks, and we are taking one off Ohio boy on my move. Now, I think the momentum's coming back on our side, because when we 4-bet ace-king offsuit pre-flop, we end up taking it down to win another pot. And then my wife actually came to visit me inside the One Eye Jack's room to deliver me an ice-cold white monster. I definitely have the best wife in the world, enabling my insane caffeine addiction. And I'm feeling it, man. We're starting to run good. We got some more caffeine in us. And I got to pash my wife. I'm feeling it, man. Let's take this momentum into the next hand. Let's go. The under the gun straddle is on for this next one, and I'm in +2 with a6 of clubs. I make it 60 bangers, and then the action's on a self-hating Chicagoan in the small blind who 3-bets to 225. When the action's back on me here, I'm feeling it. Like I said, I got some momentum back on my side, and I've got the white monster delivery. Let's go ahead and put in the 4-bet bluff here. Definitely want to be using some of the weaker hands in my range, like an a6 suited. So I go ahead and 4-bet it to 660 bangers.
Big 3-bets from the small blind tend to be particularly strong. Knowing they'll be out of position on every street, the blinds are incentivized to just call and close the action. So while I admire your gusto with a hand like ace-6, I'd be worried here that they are top of range.
And then the villain goes all in. Well, shit, maybe we got a bit too overexcited seeing my wife and getting the delivery, so I do just decide to fold my hand and, yeah, maybe a bit overzealous with the momentum back on my side. Next hand up, we got the button straddle on, and I'm first to act with ace-queen offsuit. I go ahead and raise it up to 80 bangers, and I get called by the low jack before our good mate Karl Marx 3-bets the button to 325. The action's on me here, and we're about 2.7k effective with the villain, and I really don't think we can use a 4-bet size that's anything less than all in this spot, out of position. I mean, maybe if we were in position, we could make it like 700 or 800 or something, but out of position, I think we're just going to benefit more from denying equity to the villain's range. And of course, it's Karl Marx, so ace-queen feels like the nuts against him. So I go ahead and rip it all in for $2,700 plus. And then the low jack folds before the button thinks a bit and throws in the call. So we do like that he tanks. Hard for us to be extremely dominated in this spot. Karl asks if we can run it twice. I agree to these terms and conditions. And we got 2 live runouts on the flop for you. You can see 9 high on the flop. Villain hasn't shown what he's got, so we don't know if we're good or not, but if he has a pocket pair, he's going to win the first one. We do hit a queen on the second board, so chances are we're probably chopping, but then the villain just says, "You're good," as he mucks his cards. So let's go. He actually shows us he had queen jack offsuit. So we're going to scoop this entire pot. Karl Marx got it in very light against us. You love to see it. He did not give us the bad beat, and we're raking in this pot worth well over 5,600 bangers. Let's go.
Appreciate you. Well, shit, you know we got to run the straddle back.
Now, whilst we do lose the next pot limit Omaha double board bomb pot for a few $100s in losses, we end up scooping the next 2 pot limit Omaha bomb pots we play, so let's go. We're definitely turning a nice profit there. And then when we hero call someone down with pocket jacks across 2 streets, we end up winning even more there, and we're starting to work up a really nice stack in this game. I told you the momentum was coming after my wife visited me. Let's take it going forward in the session. This is about the last quote-unquote typical hand we will play for the session, as things got absolutely insane from here on out. You'll see what I mean in this next hand. So in this next hand, not only is the under the gun straddle on, but the $40 button straddle is on. Let's go. We're buffing up this game a bit. And then I'm first acting the small blind with ace king offsuit. What a premium. I raise it up to 175. And then the action gets all the way to the tiger king on the button, who just rips it all in for 1,000 when the action's on me. There's some villains that I would fold $1,000 to pre-flop with ace king. The tiger king is not one of those guys. I break my wrist, snap calling the bet, and then the villain insists on running it twice. And you'll know my preference is to go 1 time for my LA sisters, but I really don't want a large exotic cact unleashed on me if I insist on going once when I have a premium. So we agree to go twice, and then we say both the boards run out, and the villain shows pocket 6s, so we're actually going to chop this over $2,000 pot, but we're just getting started for the insane action through the rest of this session. So the $20 straddle is just on perpetually for the rest of this session, and then Paulie D's cousin makes it 75 from the big blind, and I'm in the straddle with ace jack of diamonds, and I decide to throw in the call, getting to play this pot in position. So it heads up to a flop of 10 king king rainbow with 1 diamond. The villain goes ahead and c-bets for 40, and with an ace high hand that has showdown value in the backdoor nut flush draw, nothing to do here but just call, in my opinion, which is what I do. So it heads up to a turn, which is the 6 of spades, putting out backdoor spades. Once the villain checks it over to me, happy to get to showdown for as cheap as possible going forward. so I check it, and then the river's the ace of spades, so let's go, we do make a pair, and then the villain checks it over to me. I think our range is going to be extremely face up that we have an ace, but if we go really, really small here, I don't think the villain is going to fold a hand that's like 10x or pocket jacks or pocket queens, so I decide to bet 35, getting very cheeky with the thin value bet.
I'm not sure about this one. Unless you're trying to induce a check raise bluff, there's not a lot of EV in betting $35. Better to bet 175. It looks bluffy enough that you could still get called by an underpair. Even $350 here would only need to be called 10% of the time to have a higher expected value. Think about it.
And the villain kind of rolls his eyes as he throws in the call. I show my hand, unsurprisingly he mucks, and we're raking in this pot. And finally, a thin value bet works out for us. Next hand up, I decide to put on the $40 button straddle. Let's join the degeneracy here. And then the Ohio boys in the big blind, he makes it 175. Tiger King calls to my direct right, and then I peel ace-8 of hearts. Pretty good hand to get to see a flop with in position, so I throw in the call, and we're three ways to a flop of 8-9-9 with 2 clubs. When the Ohio boy checks it, the cutoff goes ahead and bets 225. Now I think I am way ahead of the Tiger King's range when I have flopped this strong. A little bit worried because I think the Ohio boy is going to check a lot of his overpairs to try and induce action from the Tiger King. So I'm not folding, of course, but I am proceeding with caution going forward. I throw in the call, and then the Ohio boy does throw in the call in the big blind. It's a bit of a red flag there. Whatever the case, we are three ways to a turn, which is the King of Hearts. Pretty bad turn, overcard to our pair. The Ohio boy checks it over to the Tiger King. He keeps betting 400. When the action's on me, still think I am probably ahead of the Tiger King's range. He can very easily have a club draw or just be like stabbing at it with ace-5. So I do want to call because I think I beat his range. Still worried about overpairs from the big blind. He could have King X of clubs as well. So it's definitely a big worry. He probably has ace-king pure, by the way, as well. So I do decide to throw in the call here. This is a little bit undisciplined. I think folding might be a better play. Whatever the case, I call, and then the big blind calls as well, and I just know I'm completely fucked at this point. Unless I hit an 8 on the river, the big blind's probably winning this pot. So whatever the case, we are off to a river. I hope it's an 8. It's not. It's another 9, improving us to a full house. Of course, once the big blind checks and the Tiger King checks it over to me, I'm not taking the bait on this one. The big blind is winning this pot. I'm 100% confident. I snap check back my ace-8, and then the Ohio boy is like, oh, god damn it, I was hoping someone would bet, and he shows King Queen of clubs. So there you go. He did have us beat on the turn. The Tiger King mucks, and the Ohio boy's raking in this pot here. Damn. Next hand up, I'm first to act with King 10 offsuit. I go ahead and do a dum-dum and accidentally min-click it to 40. I meant to raise to 75, but I just threw in the wrong chips. Whatever the case, so I'm forced to bet 40, and then I'm rightfully punished by the Ohio boy in the cutoff, who 3-bets to 200. The action gets back to the Tiger King in the straddle, who unsurprisingly throws in the call. When the action's on me here, probably should just be folding this hand. I'm absolutely dominated by the cutoff's range. I throw in the call though, giving a bit of action back to the game. So we are three ways to a flop of ace-4 queen rainbow. So we have a cheeky gutty here. Still check it over to the pre-flop aggressor who c-bets for 225. Once Tiger King throws in the call, the action's on me and we're actually getting a decent price to draw towards our gut shot at this point. So I don't think we can fold. I do throw in the call, but we're starting to see my pre-flop mistakes sort of coming back to bite me in the ass. Hopefully we can just hit a jack on the turn though, and then everything will be hunky-dory. And the turn is the 3 of spades. That is noticeably not a jack. So when the action checks to the cutoff and he goes ahead and bets 425, I'm a little bit annoyed. Like, why'd you add on the extra 5? Like, what the fuck are you doing here? Whatever the case, Tiger King calls a 425 and we are no longer getting a prize to draw towards our straight. So I fold my hand. The river is the ace of hearts. So we didn't hit, so fortunately we folded. And then the action ends up going check. All in for about 800 effective, and Tiger King calls it off, and then the cutoff says you're good, and Tiger King shows 10-4 of clubs. So we called off for stacks with bottom pair. This is the type of action we're seeing in the game. Oh my god, you'll love to see it. Next hand up, the Tiger King makes a 65 and I'm on the cutoff with pocket 10s. What a premium to wake up with. I 3-bet it to 225 just using a large size because, I mean, this guy just called down for stacks with bottom pair. I don't think he's folding pre-flop. And he does throw in the call, so we're heads up to a flop of 975 with 2 hearts. The villain checks it over to me, and already I just want to use a large size. I think if the villain has any piece of this board, he's not folding. Can even get value from ace-high stuff. So I go ahead and bet Mr. Worldwide 305 Dale.
I love the aggression pre-flop and on the flop, but I feel like defaulting to 2/3 here on the turn is a little lazy. There's so many pair and draw combos that we can target on this board. I might just go 1000 or full pot, especially if this is often our last street to get value.
And then the villain throws in the call. So it's already over $1,000 in this pot heading to a turn, which is the Queen of Diamonds. Definitely not in love with this turn. The villain could have easily floated with King Queen or Ace Queen on the flop. But when they check it over to me, there's still so much value to get. Any 8 or any 6 has a straight draw. There's heart draws out there. I don't think a 9 is folding. So I bet 600 bangers for straight value, and the villain throws the call. So we are heads up to a river, which is a pretty bad one. It's the 8 of spades, putting in a 4-liner to a 6, plus putting in a bunch of 2 pairs now. When the villain checks it over to me, part of me is really tempted to go and bet for thin value once again here. I mean, he called the last guy down with bottom pair. Is he going to fold a 9 to a bet here? Probably not, but I think it's just a little bit too thin, and we've already been caught with our hand in the cookie jar a few times going for thin value, and I do not want to do it again in this spot. Too easy for the villain to have 2 pair or a straight. So I actually check it back, and then the villain shows a 7-8 offsuits. There you go. He did river 2 pair, and I'm so glad I checked back. I think getting a bit too greedy with our value bets has been a bit of a leak this session, and I'm glad I'm finally learning from that mistake. Next hand up, Tiger King puts on the button straddle for 40, and I'm first to act in the small blind with 8-7 of hearts. I think this is a really interesting spot. My initial instinct is I want to raise this one up to try and play heads up pot with the Tiger King, but then part of me kind of just wants to go ahead and limp and then get the informational advantage of what everyone else behind me does. In game I raise it up, but I honestly think it's a really interesting spot, so I make it 180, and then I do only get called by the Tiger King, which is kind of best case scenario. So we're heads up to a flop of 10-7-6 all spades. I think checking it out of position as a default strategy is the best play here, particularly against an aggressive villain who might stab. So I check it. He does check back though, so we're feeling very confident about the strength of our hand. Until the turn is the King of Diamonds. Definitely a bad turn, very easy for the villain to have a random king here. So I check it over to him, see what he goes ahead and does, and he bets 200. Now I'm not totally in love with it, very easy for him to have a king. It's really the only hand I'm worried about. I think if he had anything else that beat us on, he would have bet it on the flop. So I don't think we can be leaving just yet. Very easy for him to be bluffing when I've shown 2 streaks of weakness. So I do throw in the call, and then we're heads up to a river, which is the 2 of diamonds. About the brickiest card in the deck. I check it over to the villain once again, who goes ahead and bets 325. Still very worried about a king here, but when he bets less than 1/2 the size of the pot, I think we're going to be good enough to call here. And even if we do give a bit of action back to the villain when he made top pair, it's really not the worst thing in the world. So I do throw in the call, and the villain shows Queen Jack of Hearts. Let's go. He was stabbing at it with a bluff. I turn over my hand, and we are raking in this over 1.4k pot with only middle pair. You'll love to see it. Next hand, I do end up chasing a straight draw with Jack 10 offsuit. It completely bricks by the river, and I end up having to fold on the river, but I lost a few hundred trying to chase Tiger King down, and probably should know better than trying to outrun a tiger. Whatever the case, we do win most of it back in a pot limit Omaha double board bomb pot to end up about even after the 2 hands, and the momentum's still going in our favor. I can feel it heading into this next hand. Next hand, I'm in the cutoff with pocket kings, baby. I told you the momentum was on my side. I raise it up to 60 bangers, and then Tiger King in the straddle, 3 bets to 260. Oh my god, what a spot to have a premium like kings. I really don't think he's 3-bet folding pre-flop, so it's actually a little bit tempting to rip it all in for about 3k effective. I don't think he's going to fold much. In game, I decided that was a little bit too greedy, and I choose a smaller 4-bet size, something that's going to allow us to play a bit of post-flop, but I don't know, maybe just trying to take the equity pre-flop's a better play. I went ahead and 3-bet it to 1060. Unsurprisingly, the villain does throw in the call, so we are heads up to a flop of 4-3 ace with 2 spades. Oh my god, you hate seeing that ace. The villain's going to have so many in his range, so when he checks it over to me, honestly, at this point, I'm kind of just racing to get to showdown. I check it back, so we are heads up to a turn, which is the bloody king of spades. Oh my god, we turn the set. Now I really hope the villain has an ace. Unfortunately, he checks it over to me, and I think his range is pretty weak in this spot. If he had an ace, he probably would have just bet it on the turn himself. I definitely want to continue betting though. It's very easy for the villain to have a pocket pair that does have a spade, which is drawing live to us. I kind of want to bet the maximum a hand like that is going to call, and I think all in is way too greedy. But even if I go something like 1.2k, I think he's going to call with that type of stuff, and then, it's going to be dicey on the river if there is a fourth spade, but I think it's worthwhile taking that risk to try and get value from those hands, because we can get value from them now, we can't get value from them on the river. So I go ahead and bet 1,200, and the villain folds, so we do end up taking this $2,000 pot down with a set of kings. Let's bloody go. Next hand up, the small blind Tiger King makes it 155 to go. Up next to act with 6-9 giggity suited. Dinner for two here. Probably should be a pretty standard fold, but I kind of want to give a bit of action back to the villain. He's definitely giving action, so I feel like he's entitled to something. So I'm throwing a bit of a gambly call here. Definitely not anything that's advised, and then things go pretty bad when the straddle calls as well. So we're actually three ways to a flop of ace, 8-3, rainbow with one club. When the villain checks it over to me, I'm just going to check it, try and see a turn for as cheap as possible. We have a bunch of backdoors here. I check. The straddle checks as well, so we do get a free turn, which is the king of spades. Definitely not the good one for us. So when the small blind checks it over to me again, we're on the turn with 9 high. Both the villains have shown plenty of weakness. I think it's worthwhile chucking in a cheeky little stab here. Really don't expect the Tiger King to fold anything that has showdown value or a draw, but even if they call with it now, they're going to call on the river. Let's find out. I go ahead and bet 225, and then the straddle folds, but unsurprisingly, the Tiger King does call. So it heads up to a river, which is the king of clubs. Pretty bad river. The villain could easily just have trips now. When they check it over to me, I've learned this lesson many times on the vlogs. Villains do not like folding pairs, on board pairing rivers, let alone this villain in particular. So I don't want to go ahead and overbet bomb it or anything. If the villain looks me up with like pocket fours, I wouldn't be totally shocked. Having said that though, I don't want to just give up with 9 high here. The villain could have queen jack, queen 10, jack 10, which were all gut shots on the turn, which I think they're calling with pure. And if we bet small here, we can fold out that stuff and limit damages if my opponent does have a super strong hand. So I decide to go ahead and bet 225. The villain pretty much snap calls, proudly table our bluff, and then the villain shows ace 6 of hearts. So wow, they actually played a pretty deceptive line with top pair, which I wasn't expecting from them, and they kind of won the maximum from us as a result. This next hand's absolutely insane. It starts off with a $40 button straddle, then the Tiger King makes it 120 in the big blind. I'm next to act with pocket kings, baby. What a spot for a premium. Gonna use a large 3-bet size, of course. I make it 500. Then the cutoff cold calls, then the action's on the button, who puts in the 4-bet to 1,700, and then something shocking happens. The Tiger King actually folds pre-flop before the action's back on me. This is a really awkward spot because we are 7.5k effective with the villain, so I don't really want to rip it all in for that much. I think if the villain's going to be able to hero fold ace, king, or queens, that's probably the way to do it, and then kind of just value owning ourselves with a shove. Can't really 5-bet an amount less than all in at this stack depth, so it leaves me with one option. I decide to throw in the call. Let me know what you would do in the comments below. Kind of a tricky spot. I do throw in the call though, and then the cutoff folds, so we're heads up to a flop of a 6-3 deuce with 2 diamonds. I check it over to the villain in flow, who goes ahead and bets 1.45 thousand bangers. The action's back on me here, and I do think the villain is still going to have a lot of the queens and jacks in his range pre-flop, and I kind of want to rip it all in to stack them. Of course, if the villain is able to hero fold that type of hand, we are going to be value owning ourselves with a check raise. He can still definitely have aces, and he can definitely have a bunch of hands like ace king or maybe like ace 5 suited that are just stabbing on this board, which honestly we don't hate denying equity to, but it's just if we rip it all in here, ranges get very tight and we are going to get stacked in a massive pot a lot of the time. I still think it's worthwhile though. I don't think the villain is going to fold pocket queens or pocket jacks on a board this wet when I can easily just have ace king or a diamond draw myself. So I go for it. I am all in for 5,800 bangers. Then the villain tanks a little bit before folding. Pocket queens face up. Oh my god, what a good hero fold from the villain. And we probably did value own ourselves with a shove here, which is a scary thought. We did play a hand where we 3-bet ace 10 of diamonds pre-flop. We get called by the Tiger King. We c-bet ace high once, get called, and check it down the rest of the way to end up winning the pot with ace high for an extra $1,000 profit. You love to see that.
Great session, Lee. I'm really impressed with your play. Your reads are spot on, and you made some great folds to keep yourself out of trouble. My only note is to use these reads to try to always pick the best sizing. Be careful not to fall into the trap of either using defaults or going the other way and being too tricky. But keep playing like this and you'll be crushing.
What an absolute monster session. Ended up playing 10 hours and 10 minutes. Overall, I'm very happy with my play, especially over such an extended period of time. There's some mistakes in there I can learn from as well, but nothing awful. I think over the long session, I'm going to give myself the A grade and was rewarded rather handsomely for the strong performance. Ended up winning 4,770 bangers in there, which of course is going to go towards us paying the mortgage off. We are over $28,000, which is over 10% of the way there. You absolutely love to see it. Make sure you hit the subscribe button to follow this challenge going forward as we try to pay our mortgage off in the next 3 years, strictly from poker winnings. In the meantime though, if you want to watch a session that didn't go quite as good as this one, I'm going to put that video up on the screen now and you'll get to see things don't always work out in my favor. For now though, I'm out of here. GG Gamble Gang.